Congressman Gerald Nadler of Manhattan and Brooklyn. Thanks for joining us. Tell me, okay, we at least got this payroll tax reprieve for a couple of months. Look, you're part of an organization that, according to polls, has the respect of roughly 9% of the American population. And a lot can, I feel, I'm sure you would agree, can be put on the Republicans who seem to feel that whatever President Obama's for, they're against. But Democrats aren't exactly awash in rivers of affection either. What has gone wrong with Congress in recent years? 9% is beyond belief.
Well, what's gone wrong is, I think, two major things. Number one, the Republicans generally, and the conservatives in particular, believe that government shouldn't work and shouldn't function, and that it can't work. Government is the problem, not the solution. And whenever they have power, they do their best to make sure that it doesn't work and to prove that government can't work. Then the Democrats come in and try to clean it up, and they oppose that. But the second is the Senate. We passed, when the Democrats were in control of the House, 300 major bills that were never even considered by the Senate. The Senate is dysfunctional today because of the abuse of the filibuster, because now everything is filibuster. The press just says, well, of course you need 60 votes. That whatever it is, failed by a vote of 53 to 47. Well, it should pass by a vote of 53 to 47. American politics is always played, or almost always, within the 40-yard lines. Almost never can you get 60 votes for anything in the Senate. So the way it is now, because of the abuse of the filibuster, everybody, the Democrats, the Republicans, can block anything. No one can pass anything. So you get total dysfunction, and that reflects badly on the House, too. We just sit, and even when the Democrats had control, and I like to think we were fairly rational, it was very, very difficult to get anything passed. And now, of course, you got the Tea Party-dominated Republicans who, number one, just don't want government to do anything. They want to just cut the budgets, murder everything. And second of all, from a very cynical point of view, they don't want the economy to improve, lest it improve President Obama's re-election campaign. So they do the most destructive things to the economy.
And 2012, prospects for it any better, or it's going to be even worse?
I don't see it getting better. Yeah. I don't see the economy improving very much. The economy is in the aftershock of the collapse of the housing bubble and of the Wall Street collapse, and that when that kind of a depression hits, it normally takes 8 to 10 years to get out of, unless government massively intervenes to increase buying power, so that people buy things and other people are hired to make them and to sell them and to market them. We started that with the Government Recovery Act, the so-called stimulus bill. It was too small, but the Republicans won't let us do anything along those lines now, so I don't see the economy getting much better. And the combat is going to continue.
I have to ask you about your request that the Justice Department investigate the NYPD's actions in breaking up the camp of the Occupy Wall Street movement down at Zuccotti Park. You've taken a big hit from the mayor on this, and from former Mayor Koch, too, who I believe called this craven, was his word. His point, and the mayor's point, has been that you signed a letter along with some other politicians from that area saying that the encampment was creating great concerns for the people living down there, and now you're calling for this. There were some harshness on the part of the police. I wrote about some of this myself, but when you ask the Justice Department to intervene, I mean, it almost evokes Selma, Alabama in 1965.
Yeah, but well, first of all, those are two completely separate subjects. I maintained throughout that it was the duty of the city government to protect the First Amendment rights of the protesters, but also to protect the quality of life of the residents and businessmen and women in the area, and that those two were not incompatible. And whether or not the police should have, or the city should have intervened and cleared out the park was not the subject of my letter. The subject of my letter was when they did. There are apparently well-documented allegations that they missed, that when they did, when they cleared it out, that they attacked journalists, that they violated civil liberties to a very great extent. The letter that I wrote had lots of specific allegations, and what I said was, I didn't prejudge it. I didn't say they did these things. I said there are allegations they did these things. If in fact they did, that would amount to a deprivation of civil rights under color of law, and it is the duty of the Justice Department to investigate apparently well-founded allegations and to protect civil liberties. And that has nothing to do, and the Mayor Koch is absolutely wrong equating or comparing this to the letter that I signed that said, you got to try to remove the barricades and help the businessmen. Sure, but this is saying that when the police act, they should act in a proper manner.
Is there any reason to believe the Justice Department will indeed investigate?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see.
We'll see. But the fact is that in my letter talked not only about violations of civil rights of demonstrators, but also of journalists. The American Society of Journalists, I think, sent a letter saying that journalists apparently were targeted. And there was another allegation that that undercover agents were sent into mosques and churches that may have been giving, not sanctuary, but cooperating, and that would be a major violation.
Speaking of mayors, mayoral race is going to be upon us very, very soon. We can bash Republicans in the city very easily. What about the Democrats? The Democrats have now lost 5 straight mayoral elections. This is extraordinary, especially since Democrats have won virtually every other major office in the city and state for years. What's wrong?
Well, I think you have to go back. There was, when Mayor Giuliani first won, there was a perception, there was major crime, there was a perception that the city was out of control. Right. I don't think Mayor Bloomberg would have won but for the 9/11 trauma and for the extraordinary amount of money that was spent. Right. But things have changed, and I think the Bloomberg administration has been a fairly effective administration. But I do anticipate that, in all likelihood, the next election will result in a Democratic mayor.
Do you have a favorite?
I'm not going to comment on that
yet.
That's
what I thought.
Let's go through 2012 first.
Okay, indeed. Sorry, time's short, and I wish we could explore more. We have to get going. Thank you. Good holiday, Congressman, and thanks.
Thank you.